The Jazz show fight and resolve that was lacking against Golden State, but unfortunately it's all overshadowed by a tragic injury to Taylor Hendricks. It's next on POSTCAST.
You are Locked On Jazz, your daily podcast on the Utah Jazz. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
David Locke along with Ron Boone for POSTCAST tonight. The Utah Jazz fall 110-102 to the Dallas Mavericks. And really the Jazz played with much more fight, much more resolve, much more intensity, all the things that Will Hardy was asking for out of the film session. But the night is overshadowed and paled by the injury to Taylor Hendricks. In the third quarter, Taylor Hendricks was running up the floor on the right side of the floor. His left foot got out too far in front of him as I think he wanted to stop and change directions. And he was awkward. He didn't really slip, but he fell to the ground. His right leg bent up underneath him with his back of his heel hitting his glute as he went all the way to the ground. And when he tried to bring his right leg back out, it came out. It was no longer pointed in the correct direction or connected correctly. It turns out is a fractured fibula and a dislocated right ankle. That is the best example I could give you. That is the injury that Gordon Hayward and the injury that Paul George had. The level of, I don't know, Marquise Chris had it as well in 2020. It is likely season ending. That is not official, but that is the most likely. And Ron, that is really, I mean, Taylor, I talked about all offseason. He did not play much last year. He needed 1,800 minutes of time this year. He seemed to be on the pace. He was showing a lot of things. He was doing things well. Will Hardy was going to be comfortable playing him the way he was impacting games defensively. This was an important stretch. And 3 games into the season, he is now, in all likelihood, out for the year. And let's just start with the impact on Taylor and just how difficult this must be for a guy who's really was just trying to find himself.
Trying to find himself and get to the point where he's in the good graces of the coach, to the point where he's doing at least one thing well out there on the floor. And what the coaching staff was asking him to do was defend and defend some of the best players in the league. He was getting better. He has great length. He's very, very tall, a great jumping ability. Footwork was something that they were working on him with to try to stay in front of offensive players. So this is too bad, because going forward he was probably going to catch on and do the right things toward the end of the year.
Now, from an organizational standpoint, I mean, I don't want to dismiss that an individual just had an injury that's scary and long rehab, and Gordon Hayward will tell you that he if we're being perfectly honest, Gordon Hayward will tell you he never came back. Paul George has been able to come back. Hopefully it's not as severe as Gordon Hayward. So it did not look good. I mean, now that we know it's a fractured ankle and a fractured fibula and a dislocated ankle, his leg was truly just pointed in the absolute wrong direction. We all had to look away. It's the don't watch it on television kind of injury. Do not watch it. I would strongly suggest avoiding it if you have any bit of a queasy stomach. So this is a really hard recovery. Like, there are no certainties on the backside of the recovery for a guy who is built on his athleticism and some of those things. There is a real chance. You think about Gordon Hayward and Paul George, who we're talking about, who had this injury. Those are two guys that had incredible basketball skills. Marquise Chris had this injury. He's most similar to Taylor Hendricks. If you remember, he was probably a 9th pick by the Phoenix Suns, high-flying, incredible athlete. He didn't actually come back from it very well because he probably didn't have the basketball skills when he lost some of his athleticism. So, I have to go look. I don't know Marquise Chris's career path well enough. He wasn't on a great trajectory when he fractured his ankle with the Warriors anyway. So it's probably not a perfect example. But there is, the concern I would have here is that, like, the two guys we're talking about are all-star level players when they had this injury, came back to be really good players and still all-star level players. I'm not sure Paul George played an all-star game afterwards, but I think he did. Gordon did not. But they had a basketball skill around them that was it. Taylor's going to have to come back from an injury and develop skill at the same time. This is super hard.
Which is probably the most difficult thing for him to do right now. I mean, he's going to have to work very, very hard at strengthening that leg. And how long will it be before he can it'll be weight bearing to the point where he can get out there on the floor and do some things. I'm sure they'll be taking him through strength training, upper body, maybe in the leg there as well. It might be a couple of months,
right,
before he can even start to put a lot of weight on it and not have to walk with a crutch or something like that.
So from an organizational standpoint, this point of the season is to discover about the 7 guys, and one of your 7 guys now gets an incomplete.
Yeah.
In all likelihood, he's out for the season. That's not official, but in all likelihood. And so this is really, this is a blow to the organization, because I would argue, and maybe this is being, at the moment you feel like I don't mean to exaggerate or feel particularly, but not only to get incomplete this year, I'm not sure I would feel comfortable evaluating him on the year in which he's coming back off this injury. So I feel as though you're still now this season, next season, and it's not until 2026, 27 season do I think you can watch Taylor Hendricks play and decide whether you think you have something or not. This is really a step back for the organization in the developmental of the point of the season. One of the 7 guys is now an incomplete until probably 2026 or 2027.
Yeah, he's going to have to work very, very hard. And his work ethic is going to come into question now on how quickly and how, to come back off of something like this. And like I mentioned while we're on the air, that freak accident, when it happens, it's, I don't know, unusual, if you want to put it that way. I've never had one, but I've seen guys that have had those injuries, and it's so if you can get through your career without having one of those freak accidents, like injuries like that, then you got to feel blessed.
All right, the next part is the game tonight, and I really thought this was an improved. The offense was really, really bad. Yeah. Offensive rating of 76 after the first quarter, 84 after the halftime, up to 91 by the third. So they got a little bit better, scored 27 points in the third quarter. But for them to stay in this game, this is exactly what Will Hardy's been asking for. Do not wilt when things go wrong. They fought all night in this game. Will's got to be really pleased with that.
Give yourself a chance to win. Offense is going to go up and down. I mean, you're going to score from the 3-point line one ball game, and the next ball game you can't make a 3, but your 2-point range is going. But defense is something that coaches talk about all the time, that you can play hard every game. So you got to be impressed also, David, with the defensive scheme that they used tonight, and we saw it this morning, and it. For the most part, it worked. I mean, because
they had Walker Kessler switch onto Luka Dončić, and I don't think until the 3 with about 2 minutes left that Luka scored on Walker the whole game.
Yeah, and look, and with that play, you could see that Walker got caught probably just a little bit too far away from Luka, and that's all Luka needs is just a little slight, spacing, so he can knock down a shot like that. And he loves the left side of the floor too.
Luka 5 of 22 tonight, 1 of 9 from 3. That 3 continued his consecutive game streak, second longest in the league. He almost went without a 3 tonight, which would have been the first time in 72 games that he did that without a 3. The overall effort and just tenacity defensively has to be something they can build off that makes them feel better that moving forward. And it's really where Will has just been marvelous as a head coach since he joined this franchise, is that in these moments of crisis, like a 40-point loss to the Warriors, they do always seem to come out better.
I think right now, David, is that you look at this team and you have to think, okay, is this a very good shooting team? I'd say it's mediocre right now, especially with the way teams are defending the Jazz, but the defense is getting better, and that's probably what's going to keep Jazz in the ball games.
Well, I believe we're shooting 38% for the season right now. So you are generous with mediocre, to be perfectly honest. All right. Keontae goes, and just to touch on some of these tonight, Taylor was 0 for 5. Keontae was 6 of 18, 1 of 7 from 3. Jordan Clarkson, 3 of 11 and 1 of 6 from 3. Really does not have it, coming off his worst season shooting of his career. His legs do not look like last year. His legs do not look like they're under him at all right now. Cody Williams was 1 of 5. John Collins got super hot for a while. He finished 5 of 13 with 16 points, but he did get super hot, hit 3 straight threes for a little bit. So there were not a lot of offensive shots. I am not going to critique Lowry Markkanen's shooting percentage once all season with the looks he's getting. They are putting him in isolation. They are making him learn. He is, I think, 1 of 10 for isolation this year. He is not comfortable with it. They are trying it. He is learning, and he is getting the worst looks I have ever seen of his time with us, and he is not going to have a good shooting percentage, but that's part of the process.
And they're playing him really physical. I mean, they're not giving him an inch. They're not letting him back guys down to that shooting range that he wants. The spot that the Jazz are trying to put him in is at the free throw line, and they create a mismatch, and usually you can just shoot right over the top, but the defense is really crowding him, and he's going to have to make some adjustments there as well.
I don't know if I would say Walker Kessler outplayed Derek Lively and Daniel Gafford because they were both pretty good, but Walker Kessler was very good tonight.
He was absolutely great. He played 29 minutes, about 30 minutes, and 6 for 11 rebounds, with 4 of those coming on the offensive glass, and he had a couple of block shots. But again, and I know I've been harping on this since the beginning of the year, I love the way he's going to get rebounds. He's very active. And I guess we got to pay just a little more attention to him to see how much he's using his body around there to make things happen.
All right, it's time to give out our reliability pluses. That's what we're doing this year. Instead of stars, we're giving out pluses. Lacey, we got to update you. Night one, a few more guys deserve some pluses. We'll have to go back and revisit more than just the 2. But reliability pluses tonight, Walker Kessler definitely, right?
Walker Kessler, definitely.
Okay.
I think Colin Sexton and John Collins.
He had an impact. And then I'm going to give a reliability plus to Lowry Markkanen. He's reliable. To our point, he's there. He's performing. He's battling. He's drawing about 9 fouls a game right now. He's really battling. And we're not going to go. The other one, the question on the reliability squared plus tonight that I don't know is Cody Williams. Because I'm not expecting much out of Cody offensively, so I would not dismiss it for a 1 for 5. But I don't have a good enough feel of how he was defensively tonight to whether he deserved a reliability plus.
Let's pass on him.
Okay, I feel fine with that.
Yeah.
All right, those are reliability pluses tonight. Give them a little love. Our thoughts to Taylor Hendricks, his family. Obviously, a just such a sad thing for a guy who's battling so hard. And we'll be rooting for him. Thank you for tuning in tonight. If you'd like the daily newsletter on Locked On Jazz, you can go to Locked On Daily. I'll have an Empty the Noggin for you after the ball game tonight. I'll try to do a little research on fractured fibulas and dislocated ankle injuries and have some of that for you in Empty the Noggin tonight for you. Thank you very much for tuning in to Locked On Jazz. On behalf of Ron Boone and I'm David Locke, we'll be back with you tomorrow night. Right now on video, we'll send you actually we won't. You can go over to Locked On Sports today. And if you're on audio, check out Locked On NBA now with Locked On NBA Game Night after every night.